Hey nieces and nephews, how y'all doing? I got the second camera on my chandelier and it is just like swaying back and forth. So hopefully y'all don't get seasick. It's Uncle Dave. This is the second video. I am so glad that the first one is out and it's just out there for the world to see. There's been 2 views so far, which is kind of anticlimactic. But I think starting is the hardest part of any project. So hopefully this will double or triple my viewership. I could have upwards of 6 people watching me right now, and that's very exciting. Today, I thought we would do some projects based on some things that I found at the thrift store. Are y'all broke? Because I'm broke. But I still like to participate in commerce, and one of the only ways I can do that is to go to the thrift store, seeing what I can make with them. So I'd like to share with you some of the ways that I do that. So let me go get the first project and we'll get started. All right, so this is the first one. She is definitely the belle of the ball. It is this black frame with ornate carving here in it, and it's just beautiful. It looks like it's gross or like has dust in there. That is a faux finish on there. It has this nice velvet back, which makes me think that it was probably a frame that cost a little bit of money at the time, which is really kind of cool that I get to have something like that because otherwise I probably wouldn't treat myself to that. So I'm going to go ahead and take it apart here, and I just have the frame. And this one's going to be a really simple one, but it's super helpful to know that this is an option. What I've done is taken some finishing wax. This is Veraphane. This is not my favorite one, but I wasn't really sure what I was going to do for a video, and this is the one I could get. And it works fine. This is a finishing wax. You put it on, and after 24 to 48 hours, it dries. Then I have this. This is mica powder. Now, this one is in a copper shade. Obviously, that's not what I'm going to use here. I'm going to use gold because we're opulent. But yeah, this is a copper shade. You take 2 parts of this and 1 part of that, and that makes a gilding wax. It is very similar to something called Rub and Buff. Rub and Buff is a wonderful product, and if you don't want to mix things together like potions and lotions, I totally get that. Buy some Rub and Buff, and it's just as simple as with a very light touch going around and hitting all the high points. So I have some that I mixed here, and this is like an antique gold. It had some bronze and gold that I kind of mixed together. You don't want like big old clumps on your finger, but you want your finger totally coated pretty much. And then with a very, very light touch, you're going to go through and hit all of the high points. Now, just be very gentle because you can take a little bit of this off, but in general, once you've put it on, it's on. So it's much easier just to be judicious with the amounts that you're putting on there to begin with. And I'm actually having to touch a little bit harder than I think I'm letting on, so I don't want to creep you out about that. But yeah, I'm just going to get this kind of coated with our makeshift Rub and Buff. Another thing to mention is Rub and Buff used to have colors, a few colors. Ruby was my favorite, and they have stopped making that. So this is one of those ways where you could kind of make a version of the ruby paste wax or gilding wax of your own and still get that. Now, where do you find mica powder? Well, you can definitely find it in like the soaps area of Michael's, and I'm sure that Hobby Lobby, just like any craft store, usually has it. I did see some at the Dollar Tree when I was there a couple of days ago, but they did not have red, which is one of the colors I was interested in. But to be honest with you, I have mica powder at home, so it's fine. We have mica powder at home. I sound like my mother. Order a hamburger, not a cheeseburger. We got cheese at home. I grew up in this little tiny town in Texas, and the only place there was in town was a Sonic and a Dairy Queen. And I remember we would go and get a brown bag special. This is poverty, y'all. You might not even want to hear this story. Skip ahead 30 seconds if this sounds too familiar. Like if you've already lived through poverty, I don't know why you want to hear this story. But but we go get a brown bag special, which is like a deal where you get two meals basically. And my mother would have one burger and one fry, and I'd have one burger and one fry. And she would make sure that I did not get the cheese because we have cheese at home. I know everybody is saying your mother always said, "Do we have a McDonald's, mommy?" But I didn't. First of all, McDonald's is trash. Can we just say that? No, I ate there yesterday while I'm over here complaining about it. And I think that it's comforting, like you know what you're going to get at McDonald's. But it's not good food, and and I was so far out in the country, it didn't matter. We didn't have no McDonald's anywhere near. So now, definitely, if this is not shiny enough for your taste, you can you can put a little bit more mica powder than paste in here, or increase the density of the mica powder, and you might get a higher amount of sheen out of it. But this is actually kind of spot on for what I was wanting, so I'm happy about it. Uh oh, I got a little heavy handed there. Yeah, if you use less paste and kind of push it in a little bit harder, I think I'm liking that effect a little bit more. So you're gonna have to play around with it for sure. Also, I will tell you after 24 to 48 hours, this will not come off anymore. And you can actually take a rag. I suggest like an old t-shirt and buff it. That's why they call it rub and buff for the brand name product. And it will take on even a more high density type shine. But this is looking very nice. It looks very old and regal. And doing frames like this, there's kind of a couple of ways to do it. You can also do this in reverse, where you put the bright color underneath, and then you put something dark over it, like dry brush something dark over it, and it just gives a slightly different look. And I do love that as well. I love how moody this is. It almost looks like a Halloween decoration or something, or like if the Lizard Queen was coming over, I might put her photo here so that she knew she was in a high place of prominence in my home. But yeah, very beautiful. And I did mention that you could do it the opposite direction. I don't have anything to show for that today, but I will show you a picture of one that I've done that way. This is where I took Rust-Oleum spray painted the entire frame, and then on top of that I put a stain and then wiped it off. You can also buy finishing wax, which is like this thing, but it's dark wax, which is brown, and it will kind of get brown pieces into those crevices as well. And that can be a way to do it. But yeah, I think both of these are a beautiful option, and that's how you make a a gilding wax that's similar to rub and buff. So I'm just going to finish this up, and then we'll go on to the next project. Ooh, she's tight. Right. Now this is just for display purposes only, this one time. It may not really go with it, especially with the gold matte. Oh, I don't know. I think that's kind of sweet. This right here is Mary Adelaide of Cambridge. Everyone knows that, Queen Elizabeth. Okay, so you've seen the crown, right? The crown, Queen Elizabeth's grandmother, the lady with interstitial lung disease that does the big dramatic bow with the black veil on. Well, this is her mother. So this is Queen Elizabeth's great-grandmother. Of course, we all know her other great-grandmother, which is Queen Victoria. This is Queen Victoria's cousin, Princess Mary Adelaide of Cambridge. And she's the mother of Mary of Teck, and she was known in her time as Fat Mary. And instead of getting all butthurt about it, she actually thought it was kind of funny. So, but the reason why she's so important is because she was kind of a spendthrift, and she gave to whole bunches of charities and tried to help people. And it's one of the ways that the monarchy kind of entered into its modern era, because her daughter, Queen Mary, kind of kept that going. So yeah, Princess Mary Adelaide of Cambridge, or Mary of Teck's mother. Pretty neat lady from history. Also, she was thought to be unmarriable for a while. Turns out she ended up marrying this Austrian prince who was the product of a morganatic marriage, so he didn't really have a really good title, but he was definitely royal in his own right. And not really vapid like many men of the time. He had to earn his own way and make a military career since he didn't have any great fortune or anything. And he did have titles, but practically didn't have any money. But they made a go of it. He was kind of hot too. So good on her. And there's the frame, and I hope you like that. And I'm gonna go get the next thing. All right, the next thing we're gonna do is this little box. As you can see, I'll try to show the camera here. It's very sweet. It's from 2002, the Lady Jane Limited Edition Collection, something like that. It's got pretty pink and red roses, and it says, "A mother's heart is a garden of love," which is beautiful. And then it has this really pretty engraved looking ceramic situation. And it seems very clear because of the pretty saying on the bottom that there was like a glass insert in here that has since fallen out and broken, which is probably how it ended up in the thrift store for $1.50. I went ahead and scooped it up because it's one of those things where I see it, I'm like, oh, it needs my help. And this is really way too pretty to go into the landfill. So there's a couple of ways to approach this. You could cut a piece of glass. Cutting glass is really not as hard as you might think. When I was a kid, my mother used to say, "Was your daddy a glass blower?" Which I don't really know what that means, but I don't think so. Like, do you know? Like, I would think you know, but if you don't know, it's cool, sis. But no, my dad was not a glass blower. He was also not a glass cutter, and so we won't be doing that. I do feel a little bit more confident with wood. So this was a shelf that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I have cut it on a miter box. So if you're going to do small crafts, you can cut things with a miter box. It is a way to keep your saw blade, and all of this comes together. This one's about $25 at the Home Depot. You can get one for $13 at Harbor Freight if you have access to one of those. And it will also do angled cuts, which is really kind of helpful. So that's an idea in case you ever need to cut a small piece of board. This is a shelf that I got from the Dollar Tree. And you see it was kind of like this. And they also sell hobby boards that are about this size, but I don't know. This comes with this little ring and this. You are getting very sleepy. You must like and subscribe. Okay, that's enough of that. All right, so for this, I thought what we would do for the upside here, and the shelf has this little hole in it, okay? I want to make sure I cover that, but it's really not going to be an issue. As you can see here, you can see all of the wood, but there's no hole because I'm going to put it underneath one of these sides here. So let's make sure we do that properly, but I don't think that'll be an issue. I think what I want to do is make this just look red from the top. And to do that, I'm going to put this, a little chalk paint on this. This is chalk paint. Chalk paint, you can buy it, Wiggly chalk paint, you can get it at Walmart. It's $1.87 for a small amount. And that's all you would really need for this project. If you want to make your own chalk paint, you can also do that. I use chalk. Use the white kind because it doesn't have anything added to it. And I blitz this up in the blender, which I know is going to freak out a lot of people, but what am I going to do? Get really strong bones or something? And then you take chalk, dust, and paint, and a little bit of water. You mix that together, and that's chalk paint. I usually just make up the whole thing of chalk at once and make this powder. That way, if the police search your house, you can get a really cool little vacation. which is fun. But yeah, so 1 tablespoon of chalk dust, 1 cup of paint, and 1 tablespoon of really hot water. You take the really hot water, you put the chalk dust over it, you mix it into a paste, and then you add your cup of paint. This is 6 ounces of paint, which is 3/4 of a cup. For this amount, you really just need 1 chalk stick. And it makes a pretty thick mixture. I mixed this yesterday. I find that when you make it with chalk, that it actually lasts a little bit longer. Some people say that chalk paint only lasts for a day. I would say that this type of chalk paint lasts for a couple of weeks. And I'm just going to put a little bit of chalk paint on this and make it red. And this does still have a bit of a rough edge on it from when my saw tore through it a little bit. I won't worry about that too much because we're going to cover it up and I'll show you how in just a bit. So the nice thing about chalk paint is it dries pretty quickly. So I'm going to go put this in front of the fan. I might just try to get a little bit of a thicker coat on there. And I'm going to put it in front of the fan. And then we'll come back to it when it's dry. So the box itself, I'm just going to put this paint to the side here. The box itself has, I don't know if you can see that. I don't know, it's almost like fretwork or filigree or something like that. But you can't really see it because it's white. And I thought that I might try a ruby version of that wax that we used earlier and see if we could get any of this to pop out a little bit. I don't know, I'm just mesmerized. You're looking at it and it's nothing, and then all of a sudden it pops and makes it into a little bit of something, and I think that's pretty great. I'm gonna keep putting the wax on, and I will come back when I'm done. Pretty. There's also some of that same detail in the box, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit that while I'm here. Love it. All right. I think while this is, I'm gonna go put this to dry, and then I'll be right back. All right, hey nieces and nephews, I'm back. So I've just been doing a couple of things here. For those of you who were watching when I put paper around this thing that I glued and were yelling, "Stop doing that, it's gonna stick." If you were yelling that, I need you to yell louder because I did not hear you. I will say that I've been able to get most of the paper off, and when I can't, I've been able to obfuscate with a little bit of this red chalk paint because it's nearly the same color. Now on the front side here, I've gone ahead and put a little bit of this. Number one, I don't want it to go to waste. Number two, it has a wax in there that is a protective coating. And it does kind of like unify the color scheme. So I appreciate that about that situation. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this to this. I think that's the right thing to do at this point. I'm just going to do a little cleanup. I'm going to go get a paper towel. I just want to make sure I don't have a bunch of wax in between on the underside of this, because Lord knows we don't need to lose our second face piece. Otherwise, it'll have another fate like it did before.
and we don't want her to end up in the landfill. She's too pretty. Okay. And all right, I'm gonna get better at this. I am. But for right now, I'm using my windowsill as a shelf, and it's sometimes it be like that. Come on, baby. These are nice. All right, so as you can see, it kind of has a little shimmer on it in the shape of a heart. We'll put that side down. And I've had to make sure that I put this little hole on one of the sides where the heart will cover it up. And I have done that. So I'm going to put this together with E6000. E6000 you can get at the Dollar General, I know. I got this at the hardware store because I just happened to be there. Um, but it's not hard to get a hold of. It is a good adhesive that holds things together that shouldn't. So if it's wood and something else that shouldn't go together, like wood and ceramic, like we're doing here. Otherwise, I would just say, like this Aleene's glue. Well, I got this at the Dollar Tree, so Aleene's is really easy to get a hold of. But if you already have like Elmer's school glue, by all means, use that. I'm not trying to get you to use extra stuff. But with the E6000, I just don't think there's a lot of room because of what it does. I don't think there's a lot of room to play around with that one. So we're gonna go ahead and take the nesty plunge, drop her on there. I'm gonna try to make sure I don't have any squeeze out on this side, and it doesn't look like I do. However, I do see some wax. I'm just gonna clean that up. It would be fine. You could chip it off tomorrow once it's dry, but I just don't want no trouble with it. And we're gonna weight this down with something, probably several things. So here, we'll put this wood stain on top of this. And here, I think we should just build like a giant fort so that when it crashes later and I curse and get demonetized and kicked off of YouTube before I even get monetized, we can all laugh and have a good time. I like using the small little E6000s, which they did have at the dollar store, although it's got a little spider webby thingy. Okay. And then the last thing for that is we're gonna put on the top, we're gonna put this little diamel, this little gem, which is really beautiful. And we'll put it on the top once it's done doing its thing. But I think it needs a little bit of weight and time and before we attach her. Now this is a
All right, we are back for the third and final thing. Now, this is a plaque. I have the backside of it here. Um, Shout out to Darlene's Designs. If you're still designing, Darlene, I'm sorry that I'm gonna mess up your plaque, but I hope that you're glad that I'm saving it from the landfill. And it was beautiful. It was just not what I wanted. So, thanks, Darlene. Let me tell you a little story. Before everybody had a credit card, we all had a debit card. Now, people still have those, and you may know about what a debit card is. It's basically a link to your bank account, and you spend it like a credit card, but it comes out of your bank account. So you know about debit cards. Well, before everybody had a debit card, we had checks. And you would write a check and you would go to the grocery store and you would put it in this little thing and it would send it over the internet. It would say, yes, this person has money, take it out, or no, they do not have money, and give them their check back and tell them to kick rocks. And then before the internet, we just had checks. Like you would just hand somebody a piece of paper and they would give you money. And that's what happened. which is really bizarre. But anyway, I told y'all let's tell you this. In checkbooks, there was this stuff called carbon paper. Now, if you were a fancy person, you would have um, a check, and then you would have this little piece behind it that had a little carbon on it, and you would have like a little folder type thing. Anyway, you would lift up your check and the piece of paper behind it, and you put the folder on there, and you write your check like normal, and a little bit of the imprint of the check would come out on there. And this was important because you couldn't just log in and see what your balance was at the bank. You had to balance your checkbook. So if you ever hear your grandma talking about that, that's what that was. Anyway, I went to the store to get carbon paper yesterday, and that's not a thing. So, to make this over, I'm going to do like a little spooky sign. And I've already started it, but I'm going to show you part of the process. Well, I'm going to show you the whole process, but just with part of the sign. So this is the sign. Now, I don't know if you can see that. Instead of live, laugh, love, it says die, cry, hate. And yeah, sometimes it be like that. And the live, laugh, love girlies sometimes need to calm down. So, the way I have done this is I have done an image transfer with a pencil. Now, the nice thing about this is it's way cheaper than carbon paper, right? And you don't have to wait for carbon paper to come from Amazon on the internet. So what you'll do is you'll print out, if you still have a printer, or go to your grandma's, she has a printer, and print out an image of the thing. Then you're going to look at the image through the paper and trace it very tough. Now really get a lot of lead on there, okay? Don't worry about being super neat. What you need to do is make sure that there's a lot of lead on there. Then you're going to turn it back over, position it onto the item that you're going to try to put the transfer on. Make sure that it's lined up in the way that you want it. And then you're going to trace over that. And this is something I have to concentrate to do, so I'm not going to be able to talk a lot while I'm doing it. But I might try to like speed up the video or something like that so you can see it, because I want to make sure that it's pretty. Girl, I hope my husband loves me as much as Scam Likely. Also, let me just tell you, the pencil that you want for writing with like a sharp tip can kind of cut through the paper. So it's almost better if your pencil is a little bit dull. Once you have traced that, it's going to leave a super faint outline. But usually it's good enough to get in there and make it look a little bit more normal so that you can see what your lines were. Now, okay, so now that you have made that so that you can see it, what I'm going to do is go over it in a fine tip Sharpie. Now, why are we doing it this way? Well, we're going to stain this mahogany color, which is here. I have this bare water-based stain. I bought this because water-based dries quicker than oil-based stain. Go over this.
We're going to go over this.
When I put the stain over it, you'll be able to see the permanent marker through the stain. You may not have been able to see the pencil through the stain. Okay. Well, they ain't twins, but they are sisters, I think. pretty comparable to what's on the page. These little sun rays are a little bit of business for themselves. Now, the only thing I can think that I might want to add is maybe something here, maybe something here. I don't really know what though, so I don't want to get carried away and just add a bunch of stuff. But yeah, that's what that looks like. So now that we've done that part, I say we go ahead and stang her up. All right, that should be pretty well mixed. And now I've put all of the air into it. I'm sure that's way helpful. So I did sound this board down mostly to wood grain. There are bits of the off-white paint still left on there. To be honest, it's very comparable to the color of the wood, and I wanted to make sure that I did it really quickly because we've been having a lot of rainy weather. So I did not know how long I would have to get this project sanded. It's another reason why I didn't record. But mostly, I'm just bad at hitting record. I'm bad at making videos just yet, but I'm gonna get better. And I am having a lot of fun with it, and I hope that I'll find some people that will tell me the truth and help me get better at it and create videos that that they'd like me to make, that they'd want to watch. So this is the shade Red Mahogany. And it's a little bit less red than the other mahogany that I have been using. But I do like it. It's very pretty. When I was a kid, all of the doors and stuff in our home were stained in this stain, and they were not mahogany, but I think when our house was built in like the 30s, that was a very popular stain still. Now when I see it, I always automatically kind of think Victorian times. And I hope to be making a Victorian type room, which is where my Die Cry Hate sign will live. Obviously, I want people to feel comfortable in my home and welcome, so I won't put this by the front door. But if I'm going to let you into the inner sanctum, you'll already know me a bit by that time. So you'll know that I'm just not a serious person. Everything I say is a joke. I'm just trying to get all of these, like it has a routed edge. I want to make sure that I get that, otherwise I might not. I want to make sure I get everything so that I get everything. Dun 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 dun! Uncle Obvious to the rescue! Did not read the instructions on this one bit. I don't know if I'm supposed to let it sit and dry or if I'm supposed to wipe it back. Usually on these, you cover the entire piece and then you wipe it. So we'll see. If I need to wipe it, I'm gonna go find my t-shirt cloth. So especially on the face, I want to try to get as long of strokes as possible, which I can't really say out loud because I'm a child. But yeah. Also, y'all remind me to change these bulbs because two of them are 5,000 Kelvin, I can tell. And that's really bothering me. These are not, these are the bulbs that were here when I got here. I haven't changed them yet. Now, if you have a larger, like little applicator or brush, I might use that for the top. I like how the little one kind of gets into all the crevices with the bigger one. It's gonna make it look less brushy. Okay. Protect from freezing. Prepare interior smooth finish, unsealed, or stripped wood surfaces, including port. La la la. Okay. Girl, if you don't tell me how to use this, one coat coverage. It's a surprise. You don't get to know. I'm gonna just assume that I do know, and I'm gonna go get a rag and wipe some of it back. Maybe. I mean, is that right though? But it looks blotchy like this, and I don't want that. It's like, if you don't know how to use this, why are you buying it? That's probably what they think. Warning, do not take internally. Well, hello, now. So I've decided to go ahead and wipe this since it doesn't really give me directions. I've decided to make a bunch of noise since I can. I also seem to think that every time I use water-based stain, that this is kind of one of those things I'm mad about, is the fact that it looks a little bit blotchy. And people tell you, oh, you should use wood conditioner, you should use that, you should use this. I already bought your stain. What do you want me to do? Like, this is. You can also put stain on with a rag, which kind of helps avoid brush strokes as well. I will say that as I'm wiping some of this back, I love how this particular stain kind of sits in the imperfections in the wood. I mean, I like that about all stains, but I like the way, look at this knot hole here. That looks so cool. And I'll get to keep it and see it. I thought about painting it purple because a lot of the things in the room will be purple. But I think I'm much happier with this. All right. Well, I don't know if that was the right call or not, but that is the call that we made, and I'm not totally unhappy with it. It does still look pretty dark, and I think that'll fit fine with our room. So overall, I'm pleased so far. Now it's just begun because now I'm gonna have to figure out how to put this lettering on there. So I'm gonna go put this away, go on a little break, and I'll bring back part of the other stuff. There's some weirdness over here that I don't like, and I'm just gonna try to obfuscate a little bit. I don't think it has anything to do with the stain, but even so, doesn't mean that stain couldn't help. Ooh, it does not like to take up in that little area. Okay. Well, we're just gonna keep her full strength there then. I think that's like one of the original brush strokes. That's pretty cool too. All right, see y'all in a bit.
Old paint pen, and I have used that on our sign situation that we were doing. And I did do the letters. Oh, I have not yet gotten to the rest of the sign, but there she is so far. Hold on, let me get it closer. I don't know what's going on with the second camera. You know, I realize it. I'm not good at this, but we're gonna get better. And the second camera, she might have to go to see Jesus or something. I don't know. Maybe she's just for camera action shots. But so these are the same ones. I just filled them in, and I was able to see the Sharpie, and then the filigree and the pinstriping, because Lord knows my pen is a little bit thicker than My pen is a little bit thicker than everyone else's, which I can't say because I'm a child. But yeah, I did that just freehand. I made it up. So I think I'm gonna get this painted, and then once that happens, I will. It depends. I might do a test piece over here and just do like a little bit of stain, like a little bit of dry brushing. In fact, probably not the way to test what's on the thing, but yeah, that's the thing. Okay, so I've covered it up, and now I'm gonna wipe it off immediately. You know, it does dull it down a little bit and kind of makes it look like less powerful gold. So I might try to age it up just a little bit like that because I don't want it to look. I mean, obviously, I've done it in this old style, so I kind of like that. So I will check back in when this has had a little bit of time to dry and I've had a chance to do this. I did buff out our frame a little bit. It seemed dry enough and it looks a little bit more shiny now, but very muted and like dark and mysterious. So that'll be really fun. So let's give our camera a little time to do its business and I will work on this and I'll be back. So here are today's project. This one for sure is the most approachable. Um, just a little upgrade of our frame here. As you can see, a little shimmer shimmer. And there is Fat Mary, one of my personal heroes. And sweet lady. So I think she was pretty dazzling in that frame, but I think I'm gonna probably put something a little spooky in there. And then over here we have today's little box. Now I did do exactly what I said I would do. I put the little shimmer on the lid, but then it kind of and then I attached the knob with a little E6000. It kind of fell flat though, so I went back through with a little bit of gold paint and highlighted the stuff a little bit more even. And as you can see, it's got a beautiful little stain there. So I'm glad that we get to give her another go. And then here is our sign. Die, cry, hate. That is for the anti-live, laugh, love girlies, or perhaps it's for the live, laugh, love girlies during Halloween. I'm mostly happy with it. It's definitely beautiful. I mean, I can't lie. It's some pretty sound work. I think that this little vignette over here turned out pretty okay, but I don't know that I like the way that I blended the edges of the painting back into the sign. This one over here, I mean, it's kind of all over the place. Also, I feel like I'm a bad person for saying this, but I think this skull looks a little bit like Joe Biden. And I like Joe Biden. I voted for him, and I kind of messed with Joe Biden. I'm just saying, it's it may be that they look like aviator shades a little bit, the eye socket. The deal is when I painted them with white paint, I couldn't see my lines anymore, and so I just kind of had to guess. And I may have put the nose up too high. The amethyst I don't know. I couldn't get that paint right. I think the roses look fun. I don't know. Maybe if I had edited a little bit more, this would have been better. But overall, I can't fault it. I'm just going to back up here so you can see all of the little things that we did today. Overall, I'm very happy. And I think that if you have your own projects that you find, that there are plenty of ways to upgrade them. I hope that you got some tips and tricks today from me. And yeah, I'll see you next week for a cooking video. Bye.